It's a BumbleKast Mini, sponsored by Nova Poly Duo.
Let's jump in. I know that the newer canon rule now is that chaos control can only be done with the Chaos Emeralds, but then I remembered that in Forces, both Japanese and English, Shadow used chaos control once, albeit briefly. Did he have a Chaos Emerald at that time? And if not, how did he pull this off?
Thing is, that's supposed to have been the rule from the start, so its application is fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
Given that the Chaos Emeralds don't really feature in Forces, I think you can just assume he has one, in that trans-dimensional pocket that exists at the small of their backs.
Yes, he has it's in his pocket. It's where he keeps it. He always has one on him, Even if Sonic has all of them, somehow Shadow always has one. I don't know how that works. Oh, maybe he has the 8th one from Sonic the Fighters. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. We figured it out. We found out where it was. With Shadow's Chaos Boost, I am curious. Has the power from Chaos Boost essentially merged with the powers of his inhibitor rings being removed? Or can he access it still to augment himself?
I think that's kind of TBD. It may be that it's a one-time game mechanic that's not really referenced again, even though it's kind of using Shadow the Hedgehog, but in a different way. It's not concrete. It's something that needs to be discussed and settled on. I think in general, and this is like 85% headcanon on my part, the Chaos Boost is him tapping into his inner power at the maximum that the limiter rings will allow through, and then the limiter rings coming off would be, he go buck wild.
All right. Seeing how Shadow's Chaos Boost is based on Dark Shadow, it does make me wonder, if he had a Chaos Emerald and used Chaos Boost, could he possibly become more blue like he does when he's Hero Shadow?
By Chaos Boost, you mean the, zoomy skip the stage thing out of Shadow, not the fiery aura thing out of 06. Perhaps I'm getting my terms confused. That I feel like you're leaning too heavily on game mechanics and trying to rationalize as actual canonical abilities, which is a fuzzy line, I will admit.
Yeah.
Like the boost that he uses as a hero ability in his own game is basically just chaos control. He's freezing time around him and, warping. He's going super fast. You're just seeing it from his perspective. So the two moves are not mutually exclusive, especially since you can choose to go hero or dark at any given point in any given stage and use either ability. It's just the stages aren't built to support both at the same time, forcing you to make a choice. But that, again, boils down to game mechanic more than canonical character ability.
Ah, the morality system. Yes or no? How strong exactly is Shadow when he's removed his inhibitor rings? You established that Shadow and IDW uninhibited would not be strong enough to burn off the metal virus, but Shadow is treated like this extreme powerhouse otherwise. Where does he stand power-wise, considering his uninhibited state likely could get him out of more binds, even if he might be exhausted afterwards?
I don't think we fully explored that. The cutscene where he just kind of mows through Mephilis's darkness gives us an idea of just how ludicrously powerful he is without the limiters on. Just this burning furnace of energy. What kind of energy? Yes, that kind.
Shadow energy.
Yeah, sure. But I don't feel like his true potential has been fully and clearly defined. And it's especially nettlesome in that he's supposed to be Sonic's equal when you get down to it, fully kitted out, he should eclipse Sonic by a wide margin. So, I don't know.
All right. Here is another question. Were there ever any plans for Elias to ever reclaim the throne in the Archie series pre-reboot, or would that be potentially dipping into Lost Hedgehog Tales?
It's Lost Hedgehog Tail territory, but yeah, I had plans for Elias and his whole family to kind of tie a bow on that after the Naugus nonsense.
All right. With regards to how Anti-Shadow was going to possibly be handled, based on what was seen in Lost Hedgehog Tales, I'm a bit curious. We did get a Metal Scourge, courtesy of Eggman, but what would a proper Metal Scourge built by Kintobor entail, as well as Anti-Emerald, or rather Barrel, possibly entail?
A anti-metal scourge. Ha 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 ha. It's mixing dimensions a little bit, but the first thing that pops to mind for me is the Kaiju universe from the Zone Wars arc, event, storyline. I don't know how you want to classify all those little bits and pieces, but the Robotnik of that dimension built his own Metal Sonic powered by the Chaos Emerald half, and it was clearly more skewed towards looking like Sonic, very heroic, non-threatening, just kind of a big mecha, Megazord, Ultraman-esque Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine a true anti-metal scourge, man, that's weird, would follow that trend, that he wouldn't be a menacing kill bot, but more of a protector bot, something that's a little easier on the eye, something that's a little more comforting, clearly able to hold its own, because in this scenario, I would imagine Kintobor built it as a countermeasure to Scourge to protect others.
Right.
But, not to take him out, just to neutralize him. So, something similar to what Robotnik built, but cuddlier, maybe?
Are you saying Metal Sonic isn't cuddly?
No, Kyle, he is not.
Oh.
Cuddle, you're going to get perforated.
Well, why did they make plushes of him?
Because money.
Oh. Is that why they made this whole franchise?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay. That makes sense.
As for Anti-Emerald, or Barrel, that's funny. I like that.
That is pretty good.
And I am allowed to like that because I can't touch it anymore, so I don't have to worry about any fan idea disclaimer nonsense. Let's see. Like, Emerald himself, base Emerald, wasn't inherently good or evil. He was just a slave to whatever higher power was around him. So I see that as transferring 1-to-1 into the anti-universe. It's just he has a lot of more negative influences around him. Although maybe that's the gag, is he gets picked up by the suppression squad, and between all of their nasty influences, he becomes potentially the single greatest threat on Antimobius. But then he gets converted over to Kintobor's side, and he's still got the attitude, he still has the skills, but he's going to use all that to save the world, just to spite everybody else.
Works for me. I like it. Regarding how in IDW rings didn't exist, how does that line up with the whole meshing of IDW and games canon? Since rings are, at the very least, are what powers the super forms. Would that mean that the rings are a gameplay mechanic and the hedgehogs can go super and would be able to maintain the form for as long as needed?
Kind of, yeah. Rings, caveat here, this is my current understanding. Rings seem to be mostly game mechanic, not really story elements. Kind of like in Frontiers, if you go into one of the bosses with an insufficient number of rings, it will automatically bump you up to what you need. And you got a tight time limit, but it's there. It's not like you have to actively gather them. It's not like Sonic says, "Ooh, I need to get these things to transform." It's the Chaos Emeralds that are the plot source of the transformation. So, yeah, as far as the narrative is concerned, it's the Chaos Emeralds you need, and rings are just not a factor.
But then Sonic Prime actually shows rings, Sonic with rings. So where does that
That I'm going to abstain from commenting on at this point.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of instances where rings have factored into the story previously, and where they factor in currently, or where at least they exist currently. And then it gets weird, and yeah. You know that whole thing you did a few weeks ago? Where you said, don't worry, be happy? I think that's it. When writing for Mega Man, were there any kinds of limits in who could be used, like certain robot masters or series concepts that weren't allowed? Or would there absolutely have been a storyline for the objectively best spin-off, Wily and Light's Rock Board? No, that's not Mega Man Soccer.
It varied over the lifetime of the book. When we first started out, it didn't seem like there was any limit. We had a lot of latitude. And the biggest example of that was when we introduced Madam Y, based off of the one piece of art in one of the art books. And then when we were gearing up for Mega Man 4, in the early approval stages, we had Waltz included, who came from that same piece of art, and we're told we couldn't use that. And we said, but we already used Madam Y. And they said, well, too bad. We were going to use Honey Woman, the unused concept, and we're told, no, don't do that. But if you do a small redesign and different name, it's a different robot master. And
quick thing, they did approve her at first.
Oh, they did?
Remember, it was changed in the pencil stages.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, she was already penciled as Honey Woman. It had to be changed very, very late.
Oh, okay. Aaliyah remembered better than I did. We did use Honey Woman, apparently, initially. And then it was caught during the pencil stages and had to be changed very last second into Vesper Woman. You don't often get mid-process approval rejections like that, but it was not the funnest of times. And part of it, I think, was because we had Mega Man 9 and 10 starting to gear up around that time, if I remember right. And so more attention was starting to be applied to the brand. It wasn't just, oh, hey, sure, Mega Man, whatever. It's kind of languishing. We don't have to worry too much about it. It's like, oh, wait, no, it's in the public eye again. We are going to tighten down on things and pay closer attention. It's like, don't, please.
Please, let us have our fun.
The only other one that I remember getting a straight up no on was any reference to Rockman and Forte 2.
Weird.
There was some kind of rights issue with the Wonder Swan game.
Okay.
And could not touch that. I still was going to try to find a workaround. Something that if you knew what the source material was, you'd go, oh, I get what he's doing there. But that was so far down the line, I wasn't really stressing over it.
Odd. Very strange. Guess that means you can use Rockman Shadow, huh?
No, we couldn't use him, but considering he was basically Quint.
I mean, yeah. Good point.
Throw in a line about Quint saying that he's tired of being Mega Man's shadow. There you go. There's your nod. There's your reference.
Yeah, pretty much.
I do remember back in the old BumbleKast forum days, somebody was really mad about trying to conflate Quint with Rockman Shadow. And it's like, for the purist side of things, I get it. I really do. But at the same time, Quint is barely existent as he is, and Rockman Shadow is a paler knockoff of that. So that one,
yeah,
I'm not going to lose sleep over. But we never got there, so moot point.
We'd never get there anyway. Well, oh well. All right, here's another question. After the certain incidents that affected Archie in the 2000s, were the documents more kept together compared to before regarding Mega Man, or was Capcom a bit more lenient compared to Sega on their run?
I'm not sure I follow the question.
I guess they might be referring to some of the misplaced documentation that happened and that was part of lawsuit issues and stuff like that.
Well,
I don't know.
I wouldn't know because I had no involvement in that.
Yeah.
I would imagine they were very different considering how long ago the Sonic book deal was signed and whatnot. Mega Man came in, 10, 15 years after the fact?
Yeah.
There was almost completely different staff.
I imagine
management at that point.
Yeah, I imagine the terms of the licensing agreement between Capcom and Archie were very different from Sega's. But
I don't know. I was not privy to those talks.
Yeah, that's just speculation. But I mean, based on the amount of time and everything, I'm sure it would be a bit different. So, but yeah. Say that for any odd reason, they decided to bring back the Rider series in full force based on the mechanics from the first game. But then they go full Smash Brothers / Sonic Forces speed battle and make sure everyone from the games in IDW is here. Adding characters like Tikal, Chaos, Marine, the Deadly Six, and the IDW cast. What do you think they named the boards for all the IDW characters in the Deadly Six? And more importantly, would Rough and Tumble ride a tandem board?
No, I imagine Rough and Tumble would have their own unique boards, but they uniquely got boosts if you swapped their boards in some way. Some kind of nuancy thing like that. I don't want to go back to original. I didn't really like the first Sonic Riders. I didn't like the air system. I much preferred zero gravity. Not only just in mechanics, but in terms of vehicle selection. Like there was the big Unawheel bike things, and that's totally Tangle's ride.
Mm-hmm.
Have the wheels banded like her tail, so it looks like she's driving a giant version of her tail. Come on. Come on.
That's right.
I mean, in the comic, we already showed Mimic driving Omnipotence because it can shapeshift into any type of gear. That was on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Whisper in the air shoes of some kind, because she's more of a, ranger in the field. She wants to move from cover to cover. It's like, Whisper, this is a race. You don't have to worry about getting from cover to cover. No, you want to run? Okay, that's fine. You do you. That's fine. I see Jewel on one of the little moped gears more than an airboard myself. I don't know. She seems like a moped kind of gal.
Yeah, makes the most sense.
Starline, we'll give him an airboard just because I feel like I'm getting too far afield from your standard racer types. And I don't know, Deadly Six might be funny to put Zamam on a teeny tiny board, like a disproportionately small board. That amuses me.
Good.
Maybe Zor has his own hidden stat where the more damage he takes from other racers, the better his stats get.
It seems kind of overpowered.
Yeah, well, you have to actively get hit by other people, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
If you're not in the running, you're not going to get knocked around.
I'm seeing a suggestion here that says Zamam would have an extreme gear for each foot.
Or maybe one that's got kind of a face motif, since that was his mechas in Lost World. They all had that kind of weird robo head thing going on. So if we're thinking along that lines, then Zor would have something maybe owl themed. Zavak would have something dragon themed. Xena would be kind of general icy Arctic themed. Zeke would have some kind of cornucopia-esque bike, perhaps. No! He rides his cane.
That's right.
He rides his cane.
It's just his cane. Yep, that's it. Perfect. You've done it, Ian. You've done it again. Was there anyone else? Was that all 6?
Oh, Zaz.
Yeah.
He gets he gets a unique moon mech. Maybe he can't do any stunts on it, but he's gonna fly that freaking snarling moon.
Sure, why not? Might as well. All right, next up, a lot of my friends and I really enjoy writing. A lot of what I learned to improve was from advice on the BumbleKast. But for trying to jump into the world of freelance comic writing, what exactly would you recommend that would go into a portfolio for starting out?
That is a difficult question, because I don't have a ton of experience in that, to be perfectly honest. I got real lucky starting out myself, and I have been riding on the wave of opportunities that lucky break got me. I haven't really had to put together a portfolio for writing to pitch other folks. I've just happened to have doors open for me. I do know that one of the trickiest things is that for a writer, your material is not something that can be assessed at a glance. An artist can put together a portfolio, and at a glance, you can say, okay, they have good composition, they have good line weights, they have a good sense of narrative flow in their panel construction. They know they have a sense of color or what have you. That's very easy to just glance at and then come back to and assess greater later. With text, you got to read that. You got to read and you got to digest and whatnot. And that takes a lot more time. Mm-hmm. So what I would recommend is, depending on where you're applying to, make your stuff bite-sized. If you're writing articles, keep it like to a page or two. If you are writing script format, do a 5-page self-contained story. Something that shows that you can tell a story, that you can structure a script, and that you can do it in a coherent way that's easy to read and get through. I would say if you're going full script type like that, maybe limit it to that, maybe to just like quickie scripts. If you've got articles, maybe 3 to 5, as long as they're short. It's a very difficult balancing act, one that I haven't had to do in a long time. So I don't know how solid this advice is, I will be frank. But I think key is to show off what you can do, how well you can do it in as little amount of copy as you can provide without being stingy with it.
Alrighty. And the last question. Hey, it's a Frontier spoiler. Oh, no. Okay, well, if you're listening to this and you haven't played Frontiers yet, you know what to do. We'll see you next time. But hey, stick around and let's see what happens in this question if you are wanting to get spoiled, or if you've already spoiled the game for yourself by playing it. How dare you? In Frontiers, the lore for the Chaos Emeralds was changed so that they were tools of the Ancients, and they were pulled to Earth alongside the Ancients due to the existence of the Master Emerald. But then I was wondering how that lines up lore-wise, since Unleashed established that the Gaia Temples using the Chaos Emeralds was an event happening since the beginning of time. I've had headcanons, but I'd like to know how that could line up with a Word of God statement, if that's allowed to be talked about.
I can't get into it right now, but ask yourself this. Since the beginning of time, according to who?
Good point. Good point.
Like, if you were the first sentient race bumbling around the planet since the Ancients and have no context of what's beyond your village, and how are you going to have any context of what came before? As far as you know, you're the first race on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, first one to write it down wins. So, yeah, something like that. I don't know, man. All I know is that Sonic is blue and he's fast and he's in Sonic Frontiers. Spoiler alert. You're welcome. Glad I could spoil that for you.
Thank you to Nova Poly Duo for sponsoring this episode. If you want a BumbleKast Mini of your own, head over to patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, or become a YouTube member.
We'll see you next time. Only Sonic's front ears are in Sonic Frontiers. Okay, that makes sense. Only his front ears.